Robert Wilson stared at his tired face in the mirror. At 52 years old, his once dark hair had turned gray, and deep lines marked his forehead. 25 years ago, he had opened his first Wilson Foods store. Now, he owned 60 stores across the country. But something wasn't right. Sales were dropping. Customers were complaining. Staff kept quitting. The warm, friendly shops he had worked so hard to build now felt cold and unwelcoming. What happened to my company? Robert whispered to himself. That evening, he sat in his large office, looking at reports. The numbers told a clear story: people weren't happy. But what the numbers couldn't tell him was why. Robert picked up a photo from his desk. It showed him standing proudly in front of his first small shop. He remembered those early days when he knew every customer by name and truly cared about their lives. I've lost touch, he realized. I have no idea what really happens in my stores anymore. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. His assistant, Jane, entered with fresh coffee. Jane, can you call a meeting with the top managers for tomorrow morning? It's important, Robert said. The next day, 5 people sat around the table in Robert's office. They looked nervous. Our company is in trouble, Robert began. And I think I know why. We've forgotten what matters: our people. Mary, his operations director, nodded slowly. The new profit targets are putting a lot of pressure on store managers. They're cutting corners. And staff hours, added Tom, the HR director. Many workers have had their hours reduced. Robert stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see people hurrying along the street, going about their busy lives. I need to see what's really happening in our stores, he announced. Not as the boss, but as an ordinary worker. The room fell silent. You want to go, Undercover? Asked Mary, her eyes wide. Robert turned back to face them. Yes. I'll work in different stores, doing different jobs. No special treatment. No one can know who I really am. That's unusual, said Tom, looking worried. But it might work. Over the next week, Robert prepared for his mission. He dyed his gray hair brown, grew a small mustache, and bought plain, cheap clothes. He practiced walking differently, speaking with a slight accent, and even made up a backstory for his new identity: Bob White, a 50-year-old man who needed work after losing his office job. The night before starting his undercover job, Robert sat with his wife, Linda, in their kitchen. Do you really have to do this? Linda asked, placing a cup of tea in front of him. I do, Robert replied. I built this company to help people, both our customers and our workers. If that's not happening anymore, I need to know why. Linda squeezed his hand. Just be careful. And remember, you're not as young as you used to be. Robert smiled. I'll be fine. It's just shop work. Monday morning arrived. Robert. Now Bob stood outside store number 17, one of his worst performing locations. It was in a struggling area of the city, where many people lived on tight budgets. The store looked shabby from the outside, with one flickering light and dirty windows. Taking a deep breath, he pushed open the door and walked in. The shop floor was quiet, with only a few customers slowly pushing their trolleys. A young man stood behind the customer service desk, typing on his phone. Excuse me, Robert said, using his practiced voice. I'm Bob White. Today is my first day. The young man barely looked up. New guy? Go find Dave in the back. Robert found his way to the storeroom, where a middle-aged man was shouting at a young worker for dropping a box of cereal. You've just cost us money. Again. Do you think we're made of money? The young worker, a boy of about 18, looked close to tears. Excuse me, Robert interrupted. I'm Bob White, the new employee. Dave turned, his angry face instantly transforming into a fake smile. Ah, the new guy. Welcome to Wilson Foods, where we care about our customers. He winked as if they shared a joke. As Dave showed him around the store, Robert felt his heart sink. The staff looked unhappy, the shelves were half empty, and everything felt neglected. This was not the company he had built. This is going to be harder than I thought, Robert realized. But he was determined to find out what had gone wrong and how to fix it. The end. Robert's first few days at store number 17 were eye-opening. He stocked shelves, cleaned floors, and unloaded delivery trucks. His back ached and his hands became rough. He saw many things that troubled him: expired food pushed to the back of shelves, staff ignoring customer questions, and managers who spent most of their time in the office. On Thursday, Robert was assigned to work at the checkouts. His trainer was a woman named Emma Taylor. Unlike the other workers, Emma arrived early, wearing a clean, pressed uniform with her name tag polished and shining. "You must be Bob," she said with a warm smile. "I'm Emma. I'll show you how to work the till today." Emma was patient, explaining each step clearly. Robert noticed how she greeted every customer by name and remembered details about their lives. "How's your grandson doing at university, Mrs. Wilson?" she asked an elderly lady. "How did your daughter's job interview go, Mr. Baker?" she asked a middle-aged man. The customers lit up when Emma spoke to them. They weren't just buying food, they were part of a community. During a quiet moment, Robert asked, "How do you remember all these people?" Emma shrugged. "These aren't just customers. They're our neighbors. Many of them have been shopping here for years. It's important to care." Around lunchtime, the shop became busy. Robert watched Emma work quickly but never rush. She helped an old man bag his shopping, bent down to speak to a small child at eye level, and even remembered which customers needed their receipts for work expenses. Then an elderly man approached their checkout. He wore a worn but clean coat and carefully placed a small basket on the counter: bread, milk, tea, and a can of soup. "Hello, Mr. Jenkins," Emma said gently. "How are you managing?" The old man's eyes looked sad. "Taking it one day at a time, dear. Thank you for asking." Emma scanned his items, £7.50 total. Mr. Jenkins reached into his pocket and pulled out his payment card. When he tapped it on the machine, the screen flashed red, declined. A look of shame crossed the old man's face. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his hands shaking slightly. "I thought the pension would be in by now. I'll put these back." Before Robert could react, Emma placed her hand gently on Mr. Jenkins' arm. "Don't worry about it today," she said quietly. "I've got this." She reached into her pocket, took out her own card, and paid for his shopping. Mr. Jenkins started to protest, but Emma shook her head. "You can pay me back another time if you want to. Please take your groceries." With tears in his eyes, Mr. Jenkins nodded. "You're an angel, Emma. I won't forget this." After he left, Robert turned to Emma. "That was very kind, but you can't afford to do that on our wages." Emma packed the next customer's bags before answering. "Mr. Jenkins lost his wife last month. They were married for 53 years. He's still sorting out their banking and pension. Sometimes people just need a little help to get through a rough patch." "Does the manager know you do this?" Robert asked. Emma's smile faded slightly. "Dave wouldn't approve. He says we need to focus on speed, not chatting with customers as he calls it. But I can't work any other way." Throughout the afternoon, Robert noticed more things about Emma. When a mother struggled with a crying child, Emma pulled a small toy from under the counter and gave it to the child. When an elderly woman couldn't read a label, Emma found reading glasses in the lost property box. When a man dropped a jar of jam that smashed on the floor, Emma cleaned it up without complaint and didn't charge him for it. At the end of their shift, Dave the manager called Emma into his office. Through the glass window, Robert could see him pointing at a computer screen and looking angry. Emma stood straight, nodding occasionally but not looking scared. When she came out, Robert asked, "Everything okay?" Emma sighed. "My checkout times are too slow again. Dave says I spend too much time talking to customers and not enough time scanning items." "But the customers love you," Robert said. "That doesn't matter to Dave. Only the numbers matter." She picked up her bag. "I used to love this job. This store was the heart of the community once. Now it's just about profits. As they walked to the staff room to collect their things, Emma added, "The sad thing is, if we treated people better, they would shop here more. We'd make more money, not less." Robert felt a mixture of sadness and anger. Emma understood everything about good business that his managers had forgotten. The end over the next week, Robert continued working alongside Emma. Each day, he watched her transform the simple act of working at a checkout into something meaningful. Regular customers would wait in longer lines just to be served by her. Some would bring her small gifts, homemade cookies, flowers from their gardens, or handmade cards. "You've built quite a fan club," Robert said one morning as they prepared their tills. Emma smiled. "They're not fans. They're friends." During their shared lunch breaks in the small, dreary staff room, Emma would open her lunchbox and always offer to share her homemade sandwiches with Robert. "You don't need to feed me," Robert told her on Wednesday. "My mom always made extra food in case someone needed it," Emma replied. "I guess I picked up the habit." Slowly, Emma began to trust Bob and shared more about her life. She was 32, a single mother with a 10-year-old daughter named Lily. She also cared for her father, who had suffered a stroke 2 years ago. "It must be hard, managing all that," Robert said. "We get by," Emma said. "I work here during the day and clean offices 3 evenings a week. My neighbor watches Lily when I'm working nights." One day, during a quiet moment at the checkout, Robert asked the question that had been on his mind: "Why do you work so hard for customers when the managers don't seem to care?" Emma looked thoughtful. "5 years ago, my husband left us. Lily was 5, and I had no money and no job. I came to this store to buy food with my last 10 pounds. I was trying to figure out what I could afford that would feed us for several days." She paused, remembering. An older woman working the checkout saw me counting pennies. Instead of rushing me, she helped me find the best deals and even slipped extra items into my bags without charging me. She treated me with dignity when I felt worthless. "What happened to her?" Robert asked. "She retired last year. Before she left, she made me promise to look after her people," that's what she called the customers. "So that's what I do." That afternoon, Robert watched Emma spend her break helping an elderly woman find items on her shopping list. When she returned, he asked, "Don't you want a proper break?" "Mrs. Thomas has arthritis in her hands and can't see very well," Emma explained. "It only takes 10 minutes to help, and it means she can stay independent." Later that day, Dave the manager pulled Emma aside again. Through the office window, Robert could see his angry gestures and Emma's calm face. When she returned to the checkout, her eyes were red, but she quickly put on a smile for the next customer. "What happened?" Robert asked when they closed their tills that evening. "My hours are being cut again," Emma said quietly. "Dave says I'm not efficient enough. I'm too slow, I take too many breaks to help customers, and I don't push enough people to use the self-checkouts." Robert felt anger rising inside him. "That's not fair." "Life rarely is," Emma replied with a sad smile. "The problem is, I need these hours. Lily needs new school shoes, and Dad's medication costs went up last month." As they walked to the bus stop after their shift, Emma shared her dreams. "I've been taking night classes in business management. I have 2 more courses to finish my degree, but I had to stop when Dad got sick. I want to run a shop someday, a place where customers and staff feel valued." "You'd be good at that," Robert said, meaning it. "The funny thing is," Emma continued, "I could make this store better if they would listen. We waste so much food that could be donated. We lose customers because they feel rushed. The self-checkouts break down because no one helps older people learn to use them." She sighed. "But Dave says I'm just a cashier, and I shouldn't worry about the big picture." As Emma's bus arrived, she turned to Robert. "Sorry for complaining. You've been a good friend this week, Bob. Most new people don't last long here." That night, Robert couldn't sleep. He sat in his home office, looking at the employee records he had asked his assistant to send him. Emma Taylor had been with the company for 4 years. Her customer satisfaction scores were the highest in the company. Yet her pay had barely increased, and now her hours were being cut. "We're punishing our best employee for being good at her job," he said to himself, shaking his head in disbelief. What happened to the company I built? The end Friday morning arrived with dark, heavy clouds hanging over the city. On the radio, weather forecasters warned of a severe storm approaching. As Robert walked to the store, strong winds pushed against him, and he felt the first drops of rain. "Looks like we're in for a rough day," Dave said as staff gathered for the morning meeting. "Head office says we might lose power. If that happens, we close immediately and send everyone home. No exceptions." The staff nodded, some looking happy at the thought of an early finish. Only Emma frowned. "What about our elderly customers who might need supplies?" she asked. "Many of them can't travel far in bad weather." Dave rolled his eyes. "Not our problem, Emma. Company policy is clear: no power, no trading." The morning passed with fewer customers than usual as the storm grew stronger. Wind rattled the windows, and rain pounded on the roof. At 2:17 p.m., the lights flickered 3 times and then went out completely. The store fell into semi-darkness, lit only by the emergency exit signs. "Right, everyone!" Dave shouted from the front of the store. "Power's gone. We're closing now. Customers need to leave their shopping and exit immediately." People looked confused and upset. A mother with 2 young children started to panic. "But it's terrible outside. We walked here. I need milk and medicine for my baby." "Sorry, that's the rules," Dave said, already putting on his coat. "Staff, lock your tills and leave." Robert watched as most employees quickly gathered their things. Only Emma stood still, a determined look on her face. "Dave, we can't just send people out into this storm," she said firmly. "And what about all the frozen food? It will spoil if we leave it." "Head office says close, we close," Dave replied. "I'm not risking my job." "Then I'll stay," Emma said. "We have battery-powered emergency lights in the storeroom. We can still serve essential items to customers who need them. And we should move the frozen food to the cold storage area that has backup power." Dave laughed. "Always the hero, aren't you, Emma? Fine. Stay if you want, but you're on your own." "I'm logging this as unauthorized work." As Dave and most of the staff left, Robert made a quick decision. "I'll stay too," he said. Emma looked surprised but grateful. "Thanks, Bob." Together, they found the emergency lights and set them up around the store. Using shopping trolleys, they quickly moved frozen food to the secure cold room. Then they returned to the front of the store, where about 20 customers remained, looking uncertain. "We're staying open for essentials only," Emma announced. "We can't use the electric tills, so we'll write down what you take and sort out payment later. Please only take what you urgently need today." An elderly man stepped forward. "You're very kind, dear. I just need my blood pressure medicine from the pharmacy counter." Emma helped him, then assisted other customers: a pregnant woman needing water and snacks, a father buying nappies for his baby, an old lady who couldn't walk home in the storm. Robert worked alongside Emma, amazed at her calm efficiency. She knew exactly where everything was, who needed help, and how to solve each problem. Around 4 p.m., the store's district manager, Peter Williams, arrived. He looked angry as he surveyed the scene of customers sitting on chairs near the emergency lights, Emma handing out cups of water, and Robert organizing essential supplies. "What's going on here?" Peter demanded. "Dave called to say you refused to close the store." "We couldn't send people out into the storm," Emma explained. "Many of them have nowhere to go. We're only providing essential items, and we're keeping records of everything." "This is against company policy," Peter said coldly. "You had no authority to make this decision, Emma." "Sometimes being human is more important than following rules," Emma replied, standing straight and looking directly at Peter. "This will have serious consequences," Peter warned. "I'm writing you up for this, and it will go in your permanent record." Emma nodded, her face pale but determined. I understand. After Peter left, Robert found Emma in the staff room, taking a short break. She looked tired and worried. You'll probably lose your job over this, Robert said quietly. Emma nodded. Probably. I can't afford to be fired, but I couldn't live with myself if I just walked away from people who needed help. What would you do, Robert asked carefully, if you were in charge? How would you run Wilson Foods differently? Emma's eyes lit up despite her exhaustion. I'd remember that shops are more than just places to buy things. They're meeting points, community hubs. I'd make sure staff had time to help people properly. I'd connect with local schools and care homes. I'd make sure no food went to waste when people are hungry. As she continued sharing her vision, Robert listened intently, knowing exactly what he needed to do next. The storm finally passed late Friday night. The store remained open until 9 p.m. when the power returned. Emma and Robert helped everyone get home safely before closing up. On Monday morning, Emma received a phone call from Wilson Foods head office. Miss Taylor, your presence is requested at head office tomorrow at 10 a.m., said a formal voice. Emma's heart sank. This was it, she was going to be fired. That night, she sat with her daughter Lily and her father, trying to be brave. Mom, why do you look sad? Lily asked, her small face concerned. I might lose my job tomorrow, sweetheart, Emma admitted. But why? You're the best at the shop. Everyone says so. Emma tried to explain in simple terms. Sometimes doing the right thing has a cost. But I want you to remember that being kind is always worth it, even when it's hard. The next morning, Emma put on her best outfit, a simple navy blue dress she kept for special occasions. She took 2 buses to reach the large Wilson Foods headquarters in the city center. The building was tall and made of glass, nothing like the small store where she worked. At the front desk, a smartly dressed woman greeted her. Miss Taylor? Please take the lift to the top floor. Someone will meet you there. Emma's legs felt shaky as the lift climbed to the 15th floor. When the doors opened, she stepped into a beautiful reception area with a view across the entire city. A young man in a suit approached her. Miss Taylor, please follow me. He led her to a large meeting room. When she entered, Emma froze. Sitting at the table was Bob, her friend from the store. But he wasn't wearing his usual work clothes. He was in an expensive suit, his hair was a different color, and he had no mustache. Hello, Emma, he said, standing up. Bob? What are you doing here? She asked, confused. He smiled gently. My name isn't Bob White. It's Robert Wilson. Emma's hand flew to her mouth. You're the owner? The Robert Wilson? He nodded. I've been working undercover in my own stores for the past 2 weeks. I needed to see what was really happening. Emma felt dizzy and sat down quickly. You were watching us all this time? I was learning, Robert corrected. And what I learned, especially from you, has changed everything. He pushed a folder across the table. This isn't a termination notice, Emma. It's something quite different. With trembling hands, Emma opened the folder. Inside was a letter offering her a scholarship to complete her business degree, and a contract for a new position, Director of Community Relations. I don't understand, she whispered. You showed me what my company has lost, Robert explained. The connection to people, the sense of community, the simple human kindness. I want you to help me bring it back. Emma read the details, her eyes widening. The salary was 3 times what she currently earned. There's more, Robert continued. We're creating something called the Emma Taylor Community Fund. Each store will have money set aside to help customers in need, like Mr. Jenkins. No one should have to choose between eating and heating their home. Tears filled Emma's eyes. Why would you name it after me? Robert's face softened. Because 20 years ago, I was in the same position as many of your customers. My wife was very ill, our child was small, and I couldn't afford both medicine and food. A kind cashier helped me, even though it was against the rules. That's why I started Wilson Foods, to create shops where people mattered more than profits. Somewhere along the way, I forgot that. He held out his hand. You reminded me what matters, Emma. Will you help me rebuild my company the right way? Emma took his hand. Yes, she said simply. 6 months later, Emma stood in store number 17 for its grand reopening. The shop had been completely renovated. There was a community corner with comfortable chairs where elderly customers could rest, a children's play area, and a notice board full of local information. Dave had been moved to a warehouse job, and Emma's first act as director had been to promote trusted, kind-hearted staff to management positions. Mr. Jenkins was now employed part-time as a community helper, assisting older shoppers. As Emma cut the ribbon to officially reopen the store, she saw her daughter Lily watching proudly from the front row, next to her grandfather in his wheelchair. Robert Wilson stood nearby, smiling as he watched customers pour in, greeted by name by staff who had time to talk to them properly. You've done amazing work, he told Emma quietly. Emma shook her head. I just remembered what you taught me, that a business should serve people, not just profit from them. Around the country, all 60 Wilson Foods stores were changing. And it had started with one cashier who believed that kindness mattered more than rules. The end.